What's up, y'all? Logan here. As an avid collector and strategic investor myself, I am so stoked to announce the launch of Liquid Marketplace, a platform where collectors can buy and sell fractions of rare collectibles via tokens on the blockchain. As a co-founder of Liquid Marketplace, I believe we're set to level the playing field by allowing anyone to own a piece of the world's rarest collectibles and build their portfolios in.
Why does Logan Paul keep slipping out of these messes like nothing sticks? The deeper I dug into his latest situation, the more uncomfortable it got. This isn't just another influencer slip-up or a bad judgment call. This feels way bigger, way messier, and way more calculated than people want to admit. This isn't a he messed up once situation at all. This is a full-on pattern, clear as day. New project, loud promises, loyal supporters putting money in, then cash goes missing. Legal pressure shows up, noise gets loud, and suddenly everything goes quiet again like nothing happened. Most people still think the Logan Paul scam story begins and ends with Crypto Zoo. And don't get it twisted, Crypto Zoo was awful. Millions vanished, promises were crushed, and regular people were left chasing refunds that never showed up while excuses kept stacking up higher. But here's what most folks missed. While supporters were still fighting to get their Crypto Zoo money back, Logan had already jumped into something new, something quieter, cleaner looking, dressed up as real investing, not a meme coin or cartoon game. This one was called Liquid Marketplace, and honestly, it might be worse. Liquid Marketplace wasn't sold as internet culture or jokes at all. It was framed as serious finance, smart investing, a way for everyday people, especially younger fans, to compete with rich collectors. That's always how it starts, talking about empowerment, access, and leveling the field, until you read the fine print. The pitch sounded slick. Rare collectibles split into digital shares, so one rich buyer doesn't take everything. Regular people buy fractions, don't own the item physically, but supposedly share in the profit later. In theory, everyone wins. But theory and reality don't always match. And Logan didn't casually mention this either. No quiet tweet, no low-key shout-out. He went all in. He publicly called Liquid Marketplace his company, labeled himself a co-founder, and pushed it in interviews, articles, and business media like this was his big next chapter. This was supposed to be the proof that Logan had grown past YouTube chaos.
It was a very hard decision to make, but yes, I will be listing this card on a platform that I co-founded called Liquid Marketplace. It allows co-ownership of top-tier assets. So instead of one person, me owning this card, we as a collective can co-own it together. I'll also be listing it for $5 million instead of the $5.3 million I bought it for. So basically, I'll be giving you guys $300,000 discounts because everyone likes discounts. And I should say this, I'll be retaining 49% ownership of the card, so I won't actually have access to it. It'll be in our vault. But if I want to wear it out to fights or a Pokemon box break, or maybe even put it in a museum one day, the community can decide if we want to do.
And stepped into serious business mode. Front and center was his biggest flex, the Pikachu Illustrator card. If you've been online at all these past few years, you know that card. Logan turned it into his whole personality, rocking it around his neck like a championship belt. He took it everywhere. WWE appearances, boxing events, red carpets, interviews, all with that card front and center. It wasn't just about money anymore. It was a signal, not just rich, but elite, untouchable, on a whole different level than regular creators. At that point, the card wasn't cardboard anymore. It became branding. So when Liquid Marketplace launched, the Pikachu card was positioned as the crown jewel. Fans were told they could buy fractions of it, digital tokens tied to its value, owning a piece of history. People bought in because why wouldn't they? This wasn't some unknown crypto guy pitching dreams. This was Logan Paul, millions of followers deep, backed by massive sponsors, polished image, and a non-stop redemption arc after past controversies. Trust felt earned. Then fast forward to 2024, and suddenly things got strange, real quiet, real fast. Logan casually mentions that he repurchased the Pikachu card. That should have been good news, right? If you own fractional shares and the main holder buys it back, you're supposed to get paid. That's the whole point of fractional ownership, except people didn't get paid. Users started sounding alarms. Withdrawals were blocked, balances frozen, support emails ignored, accounts locked out. A platform built on trading ownership suddenly wouldn't let people access their ownership at all. And that's when trust really cracked. That's when Logan finally tweeted, on Christmas Eve of all days, which is always a curious time for bad news. He said funds were meant to be distributed and claimed he was told everything was handled correctly. He denied involvement in the issues that followed, then dropped a line that made people pause hard. I'm actively working with Liquid Marketplace to help ensure these funds can be released. Read that twice. Logan suddenly shifted into helper mode, like a fixer stepping in to assist users, not someone deeply tied to the platform from the start, and that framing didn't sit right with a lot of people. And that's where people really started calling him out hard. This wasn't some random company he casually knew or stumbled across. This was the same platform he publicly helped launch, the same one he hyped as his next big business move, the same one he pushed financial products through to his own audience. Community notes jumped in almost immediately. They pulled receipts showing how Logan Paul had repeatedly referred to Liquid Marketplace as his company in the past. Interviews, articles, promotions, all locked in. You don't erase that history with one carefully worded tweet. And then came the moment that shifted everything. While Logan was posting apology-adjacent statements online, regulators were already moving behind the scenes. In mid-2024, the Ontario Securities Commission filed enforcement proceedings against executives tied to Liquid Marketplace, and that changed the tone instantly. These weren't small accusations. We're talking millions of dollars here. Alleged misappropriation, undisclosed payments, personal loans that were never repaid, investigators allegedly being misled. Reports suggested a large portion of investor money may not have been handled the way people were promised. Now, to be clear, Logan's name wasn't listed directly in the enforcement action, and his defenders cling to that detail hard. But here's the uncomfortable part. If you build the stage, sell the tickets, and headline the show, you don't get to act surprised when the lights shut off. Even worse, investigators raise questions about whether many of these so-called fractional collectibles had proper legal backing at all. That means people may have paid real money for digital tokens tied to nothing enforceable, no ownership rights, no guaranteed payouts, no solid legal claim. All that was left was trust, and trust is exactly what Logan keeps cashing in on. This is the same guy who told fans CryptoZoo was safe, downplayed responsibility when it collapsed, and now wants to be seen as a serious investor while pulling his audience into risky financial experiments again and again. At some point, coincidence stops sounding believable and starts sounding convenient. You either catch it early or you're stuck watching it collapse again.
What do you tell that group of young investors out there?
I think if you have the money, don't be afraid to take a risk, especially if you're young. Young people have a ton of energy. I had a lot of energy when I was younger. I'm 30 now and I'm Unc and I have a daughter, I'm a dad, and so I have way less energy. But if you're young, there are ways to spend and invest your money in ways that might mean more to you than a traditional conservative investment like the stock market. Whether it's a trading card, a piece of art, a piece of a dinosaur, like a sports memorabilia, game worn, anything.
Birkin bags. They're beating the stock market. Their appreciation.
And you're absolutely right.
Beanie Babies. Some of this stuff could be faddish. It's not. There's no inherent value to it. Like a Beanie Baby,
Sure.
It'll crash.
Sure. It's entirely possible. You got to be careful with what you're investing in.
Or trade out of it quick.
Or trade out of it.
And here's the part that really doesn't sit right with people. None of this had to be complicated. Logan Paul didn't need to sell fractional collectibles. He didn't need to brand himself as a financial visionary. He didn't need to convince young supporters that traditional investing was slow, boring, and outdated. But he chose that route anyway. And now, just like before, the same questions are back on the table. Where did the money go? Who's actually responsible? And why does this keep happening around the same name, over and over, with different packaging, but the same fallout? Because right now, Liquid Marketplace isn't just a failed startup story. It's an open regulatory case. Future hearings are scheduled. Users are still locked out. Questions remain unanswered. And those problems don't disappear just because a tweet says, "Stay tuned." The scariest part this time is that the consequences don't live on social media. They live in courtrooms. This is where the story stops being about a broken platform and starts being about Logan himself. When you zoom out, Liquid Marketplace doesn't look like a random accident. It looks familiar, uncomfortably familiar, like a remix of everything people have already watched unfold before, just with cleaner branding and bigger words. Think about it. CryptoZoo wasn't pitched as anything shady either. It was sold as innovation, a new kind of game, a new way to earn. Logan leaned hard into the "I'm learning, I'm building, I'm serious now" angle back then too. And when it collapsed, the response followed the same script. Confusion, distance, vague promises, then silence. Liquid Marketplace just swapped cartoon animals for alternative assets, and that's what makes it more dangerous. The moment you start talking about investing, fractions, ownership, and markets, you're no longer playing internet games. You're stepping into regulated territory, real laws, real consequences, and real people left holding the risk. And Logan knew exactly what he was doing. That's why he didn't market Liquid Marketplace like a meme or a joke. He took it straight to Fox Business. He talked about outperforming the stock market. He positioned himself as someone who got finance better than traditional institutions ever could. He even gave advice to young people that boiled down to one message: don't play it safe, don't touch boring stocks, play it smart, which really translated to buy into his ecosystem. That alone should have set off alarms, because Logan Paul isn't a financial expert. He's an entertainer, a promoter, a salesman, and history shows a pattern. Every time he steps into spaces where fans trust him with their money, something goes sideways. Every single time, the fallout lands on the people who believed in him most. What makes Liquid Marketplace harder to defend is the structure itself. Fractional ownership only works if the legal framework is airtight. Every token needs clear agreements. Every asset needs enforceable backing. Every dollar needs transparency. According to regulators, that didn't happen the way investors were told. And even if Logan's name wasn't directly listed in enforcement filings, the platform he promoted is now under serious scrutiny for allegedly mishandling millions in investor funds. That doesn't suddenly become okay just because your name isn't printed on page 1, because influence is involvement. When people bought into Liquid Marketplace, they weren't trusting a faceless startup or some unknown team. They were trusting Logan, his image, his word, his constant insistence that he'd changed since earlier controversies. That's why his Christmas Eve tweet rubbed so many people the wrong way. It sounded like damage control, not accountability. I was told funds were distributed. I had no insight into regulatory issues. I'm helping ensure money is released. Notice what's missing. No, I'm responsible. No, I failed my audience. No, I shouldn't have promoted something I didn't fully understand. Those words never show up, and that's the pattern. Logan never frames himself as the decision maker when things fall apart. He paints himself as someone who trusted the wrong people, someone who got unlucky, someone who was misled. But here's the uncomfortable reality. If you keep getting misled, maybe the issue isn't bad luck at all. Maybe it's recklessness, or worse, indifference. Because let's be honest, Logan Paul doesn't need these projects. He's already rich. He has brand deals, boxing paydays, and WWE contracts. He could upload videos casually and live comfortably forever without touching risky financial ventures. So why keep pushing products that involve people's money? Why keep stepping into industries that demand extreme caution? Why act shocked every time regulators show up? At some point, the excuse of "I didn't know" stops working, especially when the fallout always hits the same group. His audience, the people who believed him, the ones who bought in early, the ones who trusted the Reputation Rehab Tour. And now Liquid Marketplace sits in limbo while users still report locked funds, unanswered emails, and frozen balances. The investigation is still active. Hearings are scheduled years out. Questions haven't gone away. And Logan, he's already floating the idea of auctioning the Pikachu card again. Like none of this history exists at all. That's what makes this feel unsettling. This doesn't feel like closure. It feels like a pause. Logan wants to be seen as a businessman, but business comes with responsibility. You don't get to experiment with other people's money and step back when things collapse, especially not over and over. Regulators don't forget patterns, and financial cases don't vanish when the internet gets bored. If this investigation deepens, if more evidence comes out, tweeting won't save him. The news cycle trick might not work this time. Courts move slower, but they remember everything. So the real question isn't whether Liquid Marketplace was a scam. The real question is why Logan Paul keeps putting himself in situations where that question even exists. Do you think Logan is just careless? Or do you think this is exactly who he's always been, just with better PR and bigger platforms? Drop your thoughts in the comments. If you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to like, share, and subscribe for more deep dives into influencer and YouTuber drama, and I'll see you in the next one.